It is a time apparent for magic. Hello there, this is Alex from Lights Camera Debate, and that, of course, is the first line we see in the magnificent film of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Hello there. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. I love the likes. We love the new subscribers, so please subscribe to the channel. Today, I'm going to discuss Christopher Nolan's film, The Odyssey, the biggest film of the year, an epic according to all reviewers. But is it really an epic? There are many factors to this film. The fact that it's the first film ever to be made completely on IMAX cameras and made in a 70mm version. There are multiple versions. I saw it yesterday on a normal version and it still looked extremely bright and beautiful. But you can, if you're lucky enough, I think Plymouth has one down here and Bristol has one, I think, but don't quote me on that. And of course, the BFI at London Waterloo has an IMAX. So that's apparently where you must go and see it as an IMAX, because it is absolutely epic. And you have to take into account, this is the first film to be completely filmed on IMAX cameras. Christopher Nolan tried it with bits in the Dark Knight. The bits of the Joker and the Dark Knight are done on IMAX. But the problem was the IMAX camera, one, it's humongous, it's really difficult to carry around, and two, every bit sounds like a lawnmower going backwards, so it's really loud. It's impossible to film a whole film till they worked out a way of quietening it. It's still mammoth. It still only takes footage for 3 minutes a time, and then you have to change the cartridge and put a new IMAX cartridge in. But it looks beautiful. Even on a normal version, it looks beautiful, and bits in Ithaca look stunning. The castles look stunning. What else is really good? The sea bits are brilliant. This is the first film, though. I had my ears blown away. I had my watch on. I forgot to turn my watch off, which did cause a bit of fun at the end of the film. But I noticed on my watch it went past 90 decibels. It did come up with a 90 decibel warning on my watch. There are 4 bits, I would say, in the film where if you're using audio description headphones like I was yesterday, you need to have it on your ears completely and turn up the maximum. These are with the Cyclops in the cave. And the Cyclops is extremely scary. It's great that he hasn't used CGI for the Cyclops. He's used just props and anime and full old style, sort of, like the Odyssey used to be for the Cyclops. And the Cyclops is really scary. It gave people nightmares, apparently. Not me, but it gave lots of people nightmares. And the fact when he eats the soldiers get eaten and he spits bits out is really horrifically bad, and that is seriously loud in the cave bit. Then we have the waves that actually make you feel like you're at sea, and the waves are really, really loud. It's anyway describing them. I think if you had the rumble seats like you could have at the IMAX, you would be vomiting. There would be a bit of sea sickness, I think. And then we have the whole bit of Troy, and that is really a great battle scene. Christopher Nolan does great battle scenes again in this. The Troy bit is seriously loud, and when Odysseus finally gets his way back to Ithaca and he's in his house in Ithaca, the battle there is with Den really loud. So you need your audio description headphones on maximum, I would say, for that, if you're using audio description like I do at the cinema. But it was fantastic. Then we also need to move on to the certificate over here, which I think is a weird one, personally. Again, it's a film, but it's a really brutal film. There is lots of blood. There's good amounts of horror in this film. I reckon he's going to do a horror film next, Christopher Nolan, because he really gets horror really well. The 2 bits, if you're not a fan of horror, you're going to go walking out of probably the Cyclops cave is really horrific when he eats the people. And then we get to the amazing Samantha Moore. It's one of the best bits on screen I've actually ever seen with a woman. She is so strong, she's brilliant. And that's the bit where she turns Odysseus' men into swine, and it's really horrific. The way she plays with their faces and expands them like clay till they turn into pigs is really nasty. And they actually eat the other people not knowing they're eating, so it's really, really nasty. If you don't like body horror, I wouldn't go near this film. And the final bit, which is really horrific, is when Odysseus and his men go to talk to Tiresias in Hades. They go to hell and they have to give over buckets of blood, and the people who are dead eat the blood, basically. So there's lots of horrific horror in this. So my question is, again, with the British Film Institute, the BFI, how on earth did it get a 15? I know what Christopher Nolan wanted it to be a 12. because then you get more people to watch it. And they can't say people haven't watched it. It's hit the 280 million in 2 days, which means Universal have made their money back. They're not going to care what happens, all bad controversy. They've made their money back in 2 days, just in England, just in the UK, not taking into America. And the IMAX is sold out to September in London. You cannot get a seat for this till September, the IMAX. So they've definitely made their money back, definitely. But I would have given this an 18 on the spot, and the Americans have. It's got an R certificate in America, and that's why it's not doing as well in America as it has in Europe and that, because it's only adults who can go and see it. And I think that's a good thing, because there's some really horrific horror bits in this film. If he does a horror film, well, I think he's very tempted to. He will be very scary, but it's really good. I think, as I said, Samantha Morton as Cersei is really good in that, but that bit's really great. And I saw a few things online, saying it's disjointed, this film. I don't think it's disjointed at all. It does go back and forth. You don't start with the Trojan War. You start, in Ithaca, and you start in different places, but it all connects by the end. By the end, they're going off into the sun-dressed sea. I have to admit that last bit did remind me a lot of the last bits of the last Lord of the Rings film, The Return of the King. It reminded that bit at the end of that, when they go off in the sea. What else can I say before I get to things that annoyed me? The music's really good. Lohan Vargas, I can never pronounce his name. He's done loads of soundtracks for Christopher Nolan and other people. It's really good. It's really ethereal. And James Blake's track on the credits is really good. But it has an amazing soundscape in this film. That's all I'm going to say, is that you really feel like you're on this journey with Odysseus. The soundscape literally will blow your ears off. It was hitting 100 decibels easy in the cinema I was in yesterday. The water bits are water. You feel like you're actually in the boat. I don't know if they were in Greece for the water bits when on the boat. I think that might have been Iceland or Scotland, because it was filmed in lots of different places and it looked very cold. And yeah, it just feels a great film. This film, even on a normal screen, looks amazing. And then we should really move on to the cast. It's got a fabulous cast, this film. The top two actors are Matt Damon as Odysseus and Anne Hathaway as Penelope. And then Tiresias is played by Tom Holland. I think there's even the Punisher's in it. John Bernstein's in it as Mateus. And lots of good actors. Robert Pattinson is in it. I really think he's going to be the next James Bond. Now he's in Doom 3 as well. And yeah, Robert Pattinson's really nasty as I can't remember the guy's name. There's so many different names. I was just taking notes really. Doing this from memory, so I apologise if I forget Robert Pattinson's character's name. He's the person who's basically taken over, not even Mateus or Polonius. He's taken over the castle and wants to marry Penelope. And Penelope, is really strong throughout this film. There are really good female characters in this film. You've got Penelope is very strong. She's having to tote away, suitors who want to take the castle off her, and she just cleverly, unpicks the things he's meant to be weaving every night. And Anne Hathaway is really good at being strong but quite subtle, not really in your face, but when she needs to be, it's there. There's some great scenes between her and Tom Holland, who plays Telemachus. And when when Matt Damon comes back and she doesn't know he's Odysseus at the end of the film, and she's talking without knowing, it's really good between them, and that's a good bit. I just think this film is amazing from start to finish, but it does have some niggles, unfortunately. There are little things that slightly annoy me, and one of the main things, and it's a lot of people, it's been annoying people, is that Tom Holland is using his American accent, and so is Robert Pattinson. And I don't get, they're both British, so why did they not just use their British voices for this? I get Tom Holland uses an American accent when he's playing Spider-Man, but for this, he could have quite easily used a Greek or English accent. The same with Robert Pattinson, I reckon. But no, they were both using sort of gangster-style American, West Coast, New York accents for both of them, and it was slightly jarring. It's fine with American actors like Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway and what I'm going to forget, and it will come back to me in a minute. But Zendaya and other people like her, it's fine. But Charlize Theron, that's what I wanted to say. Charlize Theron has just come back into the head, who plays Calypso in this. It's fine, it's all American, but Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson are British. So why weren't they using like a Greek or English accent just to give them differentiation? Would have been great. That was my only niggle. My only other niggle is I think because it's such a big cast, and we know if you've read the book that he stays nearly 6 years with Calypso, and he stays nearly 5 years with Cersei's, but it all felt that went pretty fast, to be honest. And unfortunately, Charlene Theron was just there to be, look how beautiful Calypso is. He doesn't really come over as a really, hardcore goddess, basically, which she is. She uses her beauty to, to inspire men into her island, basically, and not allow them to go because he uses the lotus leaf as a poison potion to keep them there, really. So it was a bit. I really hope there's an uncut version. Knowing Christopher Nolan, there's probably an uncut version of this film. I'm hoping what Charlene Theron's Calypso character gets more to do, basically. And it was like Zendaya, good actress, but she was just there as Athena to be sort of Odysseus's moral compass and cried a bit and didn't really do much, to be honest. I think there could have been more space for her, basically. And it would have been great to have seen Zeus and the other gods, maybe. And then also this factor that you had to know a bit of Greek law, this thing that they always go on about, the Zeus law, which I didn't know, and a lot of people out there probably won't know. And luckily, my mother's partner Malcolm is a classics study student, so he knew what it was. So I messaged her, and it turns out was Zeus's law is basically if you go to anybody's house, you have to be courteous. You have to give them food, and you have to, give them clothing and hostage and food and somewhere to stay. That is the Zeus law, apparently. But if you didn't know that, you wouldn't know, and that sort of lets it down a little bit. Those are my niggles, basically. I don't agree with this whole thing that's come out because of the woman who's playing Helena Troy. And I cannot say her name, but I will butcher it, so I apologise for that. She's playing Helena Troy, and there's this whole nastiness that's come out because of in Homer's, Homer wrote this years and years ago, so he's not going to be knowing about this, that Helena Troy's arms were white, basically. And that's ridiculous. Any actress who's good enough to play Helena Troy, in my opinion. And that bit where they're at Helena Troy, who she's taken, the other lover, he's in with Paris in longer, she's with the person who was Agamemnon's brother, basically. And those bits are really good. I really like that actress. I can't say her name, I'm not going to, because I'll butcher it, but it's the person who plays Helena Troy. Look it up. But online there's a lot of feedback on her. And there is the same with Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway. So I totally agree. Matt Damon is absolutely amazing in this film. He sort of starts off with his sort of very basic, I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you haven't seen it, go and see it because it's brilliant. The sort of mathematician nerd he is in Good Will Hunting, which he won his Oscar for. And then by the end, he is an assassin. He's Jason Bourne by the end of this film easily. And he just develops that character. And there's the whole weariness. There's the whole... I know people go, oh no, it can't be. Well, I reckon he's very weary and he's definitely got some form of PTSD. By the time we see those scenes in Troy where everybody's sacking Troy and everybody's happy, everybody's drinking, everybody's fighting, everybody's taking a woman and cutting Athena's head off with a sword, and he just thinks it's horrible. He hated being in the horse by the looks of it, by the way Christopher Nolan's put this. And then by the end, he just wants his house back. He wants his estate, and he wants Telemachus, his son, to be king. So he knows he has to fight. And that's why that bit with the bow at the end is so good and so viscerally done. It's beautiful, but it's very, very, very bloody. There is lots of blood. There is lots of violence. So it definitely deserved a slightly higher certificate in England, I think. As I said before, Anne Hathaway is amazing. She's very quiet. She's very stern. She's very, I am going to become the queen. I'm keeping Telemachus alive. I'm doing these things so the suitors don't get what they want, which is me. I personally don't think there's any part of wokeness in this film. And if it is, I've probably missed it. But I personally think all the female characters are really strong. They're really amazing. You've got Anne Hathaway as Penelope. She's amazing. You've got Cersei's, who is this brutal witch who thinks it's fun to turn men into pigs or other animals, played by the amazing Samantha Morton. And I want her to win awards. It's one of the best things I've seen on screen for an awful long time, that 30-minute bit where we're in her island. And it's horrible. It's one of the worst horror film bits I've ever seen, where she turns them into pigs. A little bit of letdown, but not by her actual performance. Charlene Theron as Calypso is a really strong, character who knows he has to let Odysseus go home to Penelope, basically, because he gives him back the pin at the end of that scene with some Mel's Odysseus to remember. So I just don't think there's any wokeness in it. It's very strong women who know exactly what they want and know what to get, and are enjoyable. Cersei's is a strong, dominant woman who doesn't like men and knows what they will eventually turn into their base creatures of being pigs, and that's why she turns into pigs or turns them into lions or wolves. And that whole thing, that's another really nice scene, that whole Cersei thing, which is built up with the great music of Lauren Vassal. I always pronounce his wrong. You can get the soundtrack on vinyl, by the way. I think I'm going to do that. It's on vinyl, the soundtrack, on the 31st of July from all places like Amazon. I'm trying not to melt here because it's absolutely boiling here still. We've had a heat wave here in the UK and it's still going on. So these women are strong. The men are interesting. But the main criticism seems to be out there is that, Matt Damon looks too pretty. He's too American. He's too this. I disagree. Just because you have to change the actors you've got and the period. You cannot just do another Sand and Sword and Sand and Sword and Sandals in these court. This film does feel epic. It has that feeling of a big film. It's in the Ben-Hur, and it's in the Spartacus, and it's in even Saving Private Ryan character. It feels big and epic, but it's interesting because I think I noticed at least two bits of it that remind me of other Christopher Nolan films, and you might have noticed more. If you did, put it in the comments. I read all the comments. I noticed that when the Cyclops goes mental at the end and basically nearly blows the boat up, it reminded me also a bit of that bit in Dunkirk where they're on the beach and the whole beach gets blown up and the submarine, the big boat they're trying to get back to, gets blown up. It reminded me a lot of that. And when they're in the castle and they're talking, Talaritas is talking to find out about where Odysseus is, there's lots of jugglers and magicians and all, and that reminded a little bit of the early bits in The Prestige. So he obviously does take in everything. And a lot of people have been trying to compare it to Oppenheimer. I know they've been trying to compare it to Oppenheimer because these two characters could be pretty close. Odysseus is the man who destroys all worlds in people's mind, and they see, Oppenheimer, Robert Oppenheimer being the same. So people have tried to compare. I think there's a little bit there because everything Odysseus touches does either turn to dust or till he gets home. Doesn't really succeed in anything he does, basically. And that could be seen these days as definitely some form of post-traumatic stress disorder. So I reckon it's definitely there, Odysseus. But, it's the choices I think he makes what lead him back to Ithaca and lead him back to Penelope. And even when he gets back there, he doesn't want to be there. And he doesn't want to be the person who makes his son, Telemachus, exiled. So he exiles himself, which, we've got that boat bit at the end, which Penelope goes on. It's all beautifully shot. This film is, you're going to go want to see this film on the biggest screen going. I saw it on not a bad screen, but it looked beautiful even in that. But you want to go to the IMAX and see it on the biggest screen you can find. I don't know about the Plymouth IMAX, but unfortunately the BFI IMAX in London is booked out till September. But go and see it if you can. It's really interesting because IMAX screens are very rare. I think there's only 90 in the world, and I was hearing that the film weighs nearly 600 tons. If you weigh the film, because they were projecting this, was saying, if you weigh the film of the Odyssey, it weighs 600 tons and was stretched from London to Edinburgh. If you try and lay it out, so it's that big. And I think you should see it on the biggest screen going. Every character has its. There's no really character you think, oh, I wish they weren't there. Well, maybe, as I said, maybe Calypso and Athena, but they're just not given enough space. This film has an awful lot of actors and great performances from, Robert Pattinson's brilliant, Matt Damon's brilliant, Anne Hathaway's absolutely excellent. And even though it annoyed me because he had this sort of weird West Coast accent on, Tom Holland is brilliant. So I'm just going to mop my head because it's absolutely boiling here still. Sorry if you saw that. And I really recommend it. I think you will enjoy it. News. One thing I have noticed again, I noticed that the screen I went to yesterday, that Universal Abbots again had audio description. I now know that The Werewolf, new film coming out, which is in a weird spot, I'll probably go and see it. It's not out till New Year's Day, but I got to find out about it because the advert had audio description. Unfortunately, Warner Brothers adverts don't, because it went quiet. Come on, film companies, put it on everything. I really would love it on everything. Make my life a lot easier. Next week, I'm going to go and see the new Spider-Man film. I might do a review of other things, but let me know on the channel what you'd like. Otherwise, the next review will be the new Spider-Man film. I know, coincidence that it's Tom Holland again, with Zendaya as well, and John Bernstein. No, talk about, they must like each other. They must have had such a, in the last 2 years, they must have had such a party together, because they've been doing this, at least 2 films together. Anyway, so that's what's coming up. Probably Spider-Man. If you recommend me something to watch on Netflix, on Disney Plus, on Amazon, I must watch Sheep Detectives. I want to see how good that is. Is it good? Let me know in the comments. So probably everything on Sheep Detectives, and I don't think anything else. Oh, He-Man's dropped again, so I might watch that here, see if I like it even more. That's also on Amazon Prime. Now, if you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch Sheep Detectives. You can watch He-Man, Master of the Universe. If you've got Disney Plus from this Friday, you can watch The Devil Wears Prada 2. I know it's absolutely mental, but now you go to the cinema, and I would wish I'd gone to the cinema when the Heatwave first one was on there, because it's gorgeous yesterday. It was lovely and cold, all good. I don't know if you can hear my phone quietly waffling on in the background. Sorry, my phone is going off in the background. I apologise for that. And anyway, so that's what's happening. So the next video is probably on Spider-Man, and I might do one on the Sheep Detective. So keep watching. Let's get this up to 50. It'd be great by the end of the month. And that's all, folks.